class. Just taking the time to go over week 6 learning resources and assignments. As you'll see here in the learning resources, you are going to be choosing 2 articles from this grouping here. This week is going to be focused on cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, and dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. I'm sure many of you have heard of these approaches. They are very evidence-based approaches. They are very practical. There are a lot of specific interventions that you can use within these approaches. Essentially, the way that I usually describe CBT to my clients is that our thoughts, our feelings, and behaviors are all related, and if we can change our thoughts, we can change our emotions, we can change our behaviors. There are times that if we can change our behaviors, we can change how we feel as well. The one thing that I always tell them is that it's hard to just say, I'm going to change how I feel and just leave it at that. Usually we have a little bit more control of our behavior and our thoughts than just the emotion itself. So you'll see within these articles, there's a couple of different articles just describing CBT, and hopefully you find them useful. You'll see that there's some articles that describe use of CBT with different populations as well. So as usual, pick something that you might want to learn more about. There's discussion of use of CBT with children and adolescents. You'll see that there's different types of CBT. Specifically down here in the last article, you'll see some discussion of ERP, exposure and response prevention, for OCD, which is a more specific approach. There's some differences, and the approach is a little bit more specialized to OCD, more focused on the behavioral aspect of CBT specifically for OCD, where you're looking at more exposures, kind of exposing the client to their anxiety as a way to gradually reduce that anxiety. You'll see that we're pretty heavy on the videos this week. Here you'll see a video by Marshall Linehan. She is the author, creator of dialectical behavior therapy. What we know about DBT is that it is specifically useful for people with borderline personality disorder. So you'll learn more about borderline personality disorder specifically. Some things to keep in mind with borderline personality disorder is that some do believe that it is a trauma and attachment-based disorder that creates these maladaptive patterns, and those patterns can be persistent, and it is known to be pretty treatment resistant, but we do know that DBT can be effective for people with borderline personality disorder to learn some skills in communication, emotion regulation, mindfulness, and distress tolerance. So you'll see that there's a couple of different videos here. Here's one that describes CBT. There's some required segments. You do not have to watch the whole video, but you could if you would like to. And then we have another one that describes DBT techniques for emotion dysregulation. Again, there are some required segments, just some ways to teach emotion regulation skills through different ways. Again, like this approach is very intervention based. There's typically within DBT, there's a specific approach where your client would participate in a DBT skills group to learn the skills, and then would have some individual therapy to process some ways to carry out those skills. The discussion this week is pretty straightforward. You are just going to be choosing one of the videos that were assigned for the week and describe what you learned about the interventions with clients from the video. And then you are going to also indicate how it might inform your work given your particular style. Which of those interventions or which of those approaches might fit into how you work as a clinician, based on who you are as a person, your attachment style, or the population that you plan to work with, as well as just your general comfort and your understanding of this skill. A lot of times we want to keep in mind that there are no one-size-fits-all approaches, but as clinicians, you might tend towards a belief in one certain theoretical framework, and those are things that you're going to get to know about yourself as a clinician, and your clients will get to know about you to determine whether or not you as a therapist are a fit for them as well. We all have different personalities and ways of and styles, so kind of this post can be a way to better understand yourself as a clinician too, and how these more skills-based approaches might fit into the way that you work. And for this particular discussion, you are going to be responding to at least one classmate and just reacting to their response. Provide some constructive feedback or maybe something that you learned from their post. As usual, the initial post is due by Thursday at 11:59 p.m. and the response is due by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. You do also have your paper due this week, and I will be posting a separate video to describe that paper, so please be sure to view it. Thanks.